When it comes to the St. Louis Blues, there is so much they need to do, and I truly think that this is the biggest move they can make this offseason, and I'm going to tell you exactly why they should make it coming up here on Locked on Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Blues. It's Haley talking to you all things about the St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I'm going to talk about the biggest moves for the Blues this offseason that they should make. Grading Braden Shen, who is our captain, and of course, Joel Hofer season, and why I think that he is the best possible option for being the backup goalie of the St. Louis Blues, and why he has impressed me. So before I get into all of that here in Locked On Blues today, I just want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I hope everybody's having a happy Thursday. I know I am. I am done traveling. I'm back home, and it feels so nice. Most importantly, I am so excited for the NHL draft. We're approaching under 55 days away, and I have booked everything for Vegas. So I have now solidified that, which is a huge sense of relief off of my plate. So when it comes to the Blues' biggest offseason moves, and why I think that this will be the most important move, it's because this will be the reason why the Blues will make it to the playoffs. And that is acquiring a studded two-way defender. I know what you're thinking. Hale, do you think that it's going to be possible? And I think yes. I think most importantly, having a defender, especially with Colton Parayko, will be the most important thing for the St. Louis Blues. Do I have a name of a defender? No, I do not. But I do think this. If the Blues are able to go after a defender that is well established, right? Respected in the league, a defender that is truly able to play two ways, right? Good with defense, obviously, good with offense, and is able to, be a good unit on the power play or the penalty kill for that matter, then the Blues will strike gold. What they're missing right now is having that player. And I know what you're thinking. Hale, come on. Do you really think the Blues can afford that? And I think they can. I think some trades will happen. And who's to say that Colton Parayko won't be traded? I mean, at this point, there are so many guys on the St. Louis Blues that are able to be traded. Do I think that they're going to trade a guy like Robert Thomas? No. But it's possible, and we have to be realistic too. The St. Louis Blues are in a really interesting position. They are a team that's not a bad team, but they're not a great team. They're the best worst team, which I've talked about. And I know I mentioned this in yesterday's episode last night, about how I'm watching the playoffs and how all these teams in the playoffs are really good teams. And I feel like the Blues, they're right on the verge of having that. They need that little extra jump, that little extra bit of momentum, right? They need some more of that going on. I think that they have some foundation, right? And I'll talk more about this later in the episode today with the goalies. They have really strong forwards and a Robert Thomas, a Jake Neighbors, a Pavel Buchnevich who they want to extend. But here comes the issue. You can have some of the best forwards in the league because I do believe that Robert Thomas is one of the best in the NHL, but still struggle because your defense isn't strong enough. And that's what we saw this past season. How many games did the defense look like Swiss cheese? And I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be cute. I'm being realistic. How many games did we watch of the St. Louis Blues where that defense just looked like trash? Way too many games. It puts more pressure on the goalies. It puts more pressure on Jordan Binnington. It puts more pressure on Joel Hofer. I believe if the St. Louis Blues want to be a competitive team, a team that is a contending team, they need to get stronger defensive players. The NHL these days, you can't just have a strong defensive player. You need a strong two-way defensive player. That's how the NHL is going. I don't make up the rules. I just talk about it. And that's the pattern that I've been noticing. So for the St. Louis Blues, what they need to do is look at their cap space, right? How much money are they willing to spend? And then evaluate that. Do we need to trade some guys? How much cap relief do we need? And once the Blues come up with a number, a ballpark number of what they're willing to do, in a sense of getting rid of players, and by players, I mean their salaries, right? Things in that nature, then they can go after certain targets. I think it's a good investment to make. I would obviously prefer younger because with a younger player, you can get a lot more out of them, especially that value. If, for instance, maybe they don't pan out, you can always trade and get some value. But my biggest problem is this, is that, and there's nothing against older players in the league, but I'm not looking to get a guy that's kind of at the end of his career, right? I want a guy that's a little bit younger because for my mentality right now for the St. Louis Blues, I am truly thinking, how can the Blues get back to being in the playoffs, number one? But secondly, how can they get back to winning that Stanley Cup? I think about when we won the cup quite a bit. I do. And we had some really strong players. You know, we had Patty Maroon. Um, we've had a lot of good players in that cup run. And it's not Patrick Maroon. I mean O'Reilly. What I think Patrick Maroon. I was saying, you know what I was saying Patrick Maroon, honestly? Because I was thinking of old hockey players. And I was like, huh. But I know we did have Patty Maroon. I mean, listen, I know that like Maroon was with us, and I get that valid. I mean, but I was really thinking of Patrick O'Reilly. I mean, not Ryan O'Reilly. Oh my goodness. I know Patrick Maroon won the cup with us too. We had O'Reilly. Listen, I get it. Okay. But see, I get all these guys mixed up in my head. But I was seriously thinking that we need to get younger because I want those consistent guys. I hate the fact that a guy like Robert Thomas, it's not his fault because I know obviously it was a rookie season, but I hate that the team just hasn't been that good since because, again, I know that he won the cup. Huge honor to win the Stanley Cup, but I'm like, oh man, like, how cool would that have been for, the Blues to be this dynasty team? I can't believe I mixed up those two guys' names. I love you, Ryan O'Reilly, and I love you, Patrick Maroon. I know you guys were both with us. I was thinking of O'Reilly, and then I got him and Maroon mixed up. So I do apologize. Oh man, that was a bad thing on my part. You see what happens? I get players mixed up, and then it just turns out to just be something where I laugh at myself. But in all seriousness, I think that getting this two-way defender, as I talked about, will be the most important moves the Blues make this offseason. And I really hope it happens. My biggest concern is that this doesn't happen because, again, possibility, and the Blues will be back in that same position of maybe not making the playoffs or whatever happened to them this season. And I don't want that to happen to them again because there's too many talented players on the St. Louis Blues for them not to compete for the Stanley Cup. Let me repeat that again. There are too many seriously talented players on the St. Louis Blues that are not competing for the Stanley Cup this season. And it sucks. It's not fair. I talked to you about, the goalies with Swayman and Vasilevsky. I know he's eliminated now. Elias Shurkin, Ottinger, and it kills me that Binnington isn't in this competition. And I think the reason why it frustrates me so much is because I know that Jordan Binnington is just as strong as these other goalies. He is a Stanley Cup champion, baby. But it's because of the defense. So if the Blues don't make this move, right? And I'll talk about names coming up. I have a lot of episodes to do, but I'll talk more about names. But if the Blues don't make this one move, it's going to set the team back again. And the team was already set back this season when there was no real moves made this past offseason. So, Doug, if you were listening, please help out the Blues because they deserve a chance of making the playoffs, but they're not going to make it if they don't have some more defensive players that are strong two-way defensive players. And good on the penalty kill and good on the power play, especially that power play sucks, but that's a whole other conversation that you and I can have. I want to talk to you about my friends over at Indeed. There is no I in team, but there is one Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's powerful hiring platform can help you do it all. We can streamline hiring with powerful tools that help you find matched candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed matches your job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed Data US. One thing I love about Indeed is that it is so easy to use and you can really hire all of your candidates all in one platform. Start hiring now with $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockdown. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/locked-on. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed? Indeed you do. I always feel like I need to say that Indeed you do because, like, seriously, Indeed you do. We are about to talk about the captain, oh captain, baby. That is Captain Brayden Schenn. And I have been ready to grade him. First off, I want to say this. I agree. Brayden Schenn should have been captain of the St. Louis Blues. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. Did he have the best season? No. Did I have the best season? No, because I don't play hockey, but that's just making me make it not seem as bad about Schenn. Okay. So first and foremost, I am just grading purely off of how they played this season, hockey-wise, not about anything off the ice. So I love Schenn. I think he's a great person. I love talking to Schenn. Again, I will be posting that interview soon that I took of him. But also talk about the 32-year-old captain, Brayden Schenn. So he played all 82 games this season with 20 goals, 26 assists, and accumulating 46 points, and he was minus 22 on the season. So how does the season compare to last season? Well, last season he had 65 points, the season prior 58 points. So this was one of his actually lower scoring seasons that he's had in the National Hockey League. Do I think this was a good season for Captain Brayden Schenn? I mean, he did get a hat trick this season, which was kind of cool. So I always enjoy seeing that. I think that Brayden Schenn, though, he is a good player, okay? And when he's on, he's on. I understand him being at the second line. I get it, okay? It's fine. It is what it is. I think that, and it's so hard for me not to talk about off the ice, but I think on the ice, he does bring an element of, I don't say aggressiveness, but he does fire up the guys, and he truly does lead the team, which you can see. I think this season, though, it was a little bit of a weird season because he started off really, really slow. And maybe it's the role of being captain. I don't know, obviously, if that impacted his play that much because it shouldn't, right? Like, when you become captain of a team, it should not negatively impact you. But I do think that this was a new task, a new responsibility that he had. So I am understanding about the fact that, hey, maybe was a transition that wasn't as easy. But again, I'm not going to fault him for that. I think Brayden Schenn is one of those players where I look at him and I feel excitement about him. His first season with the St. Louis Blues, I will never forget when he had 70 points that season with 28 goals and 42 assists. He was an assist machine that season, and I was so excited that we acquired him from Philadelphia. I think that Brayden Schenn brings an element to the game that is really impressive because it's the leadership skills that he shows on ice. It's the fact that he's able to draw up these awesome plays. He's able to get his teammates involved, and he's not a selfish player at all. He's actually a very selfless player, which you don't always see in the NHL. So I think at the end of the day, sure, not the best season, but it wasn't an awful season. I get the captain. I give the C a C. He gets a C. He doesn't get a C minus. Not going to get a C plus. It was an average season for Braden Shen, which isn't a bad thing. It means that he can grow, he can improve. I think a lot of people were really hard on him and they all said, oh, Robert Thomas should have been the captain. I've always said this, one day Robert Thomas will be the captain of the St. Louis Blues. I think Braden Shen has a couple more seasons left in him. Okay. So let's give him some time. Let's give him this coming season. Okay. I am so sick of everybody for being so hard on Braden Shen. I don't think he had a bad season. I don't think it was a great season, but let's be a little bit better to the captain, okay? It is not an easy task to do whatsoever, and I think for what it was worth, he did a good job. So, Captain Braden Shen, good job on your part, and hopefully next season will be a better season for you and for the St. Louis Blues. Let's talk about my friends over at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Let's talk about Joel Hofer and why I'm excited about him. When it comes to goalies, I feel like I can be kind of tough sometimes. And I love Binnington, and I talked about the fact that he is a top 5 goalie in the NHL. I think for Joel Hofer, and I think because, with Worlds, being on Team Canada, again, alongside with Binnington, I felt more optimistic. The Blues are in a really good spot when it comes to their goalie Tatum. Now, do I think that, when you look at Hofer, you look at Ullmark and Swayman on the Bruins, do I think that they have that same kind of vibe? No. I think Hofer still needs to establish himself a little bit more, become stronger, because at the beginning of the season, I did not like what I saw as much. Needless to say, still very early days, and he's going to improve. But he's a young guy, right? I think he's only like 20 or 21. I think that Joel Hofer has a lot of potential. I think that he is going to bring a lot to the Blues. And I said it's Joel Hofer's season because I believe next season we're going to see him play and dress in a lot more games. I'm not saying that this is the end for Binnington at all, but I think that Bannister, from what I saw when Bannister did when he came over, by the way, in December, he did utilize Hofer a lot more than Berube did. I think we're going to see Hofer dress in a lot more games, starting wise, than we did this past season. So when I say it's Joel Hofer's season, I'm not saying, oh, Binnington won't be here. Of course he's going to be here, folks. I'm just saying I do genuinely believe that Hofer will be dressing in some more games. What does this mean for the Blues? Well, the NHL is heading in a direction where you really have multiple goalies that are the core of your team. And it used to be back in the good old days of hockey where you really just would have one goalie and you would have a backup if needed. Now it seems like they rotate, through their 2 goalies that they have. And that's fine. Am I a fan of that? Not so much. I still like the old traditional way of just having one goalie and having the backup if needed. But I understand that times are changing, injuries happen. You want to make sure players are healthy, and that's most important. So I understand the reasoning why. I just think that we're going to be seeing a lot more Hofer, not complaining. There is very few that I will complain about when it comes to this team because I am cautiously excited and optimistic. I think that my optimism with the St. Louis Blues truly just comes from the fact that I have never felt as secure as I do with our goalie Tatum right now. And with a strong goalies, you have a strong team. And I know what you're thinking, hey, the goalies were so strong. Why didn't we make the playoffs? Okay, well, the defense sucked. The offense wasn't scoring. Do I need to say anything else? But the goalies, they did do a good job. So I think that make those couple moves the offseason and the Blues will be fine. But again, I will not be surprised if the Blues utilize, which they should, Joel Hofer more than they did this past season. I got really heated on that, but that's how I feel. So St. Louis, I will talk to you tomorrow for an Are We Feeling Blue Friday. And until then, like always, let's go Blues.